Okay, now I'm going to just go back to the rest of chapter 12, the man-child ministry that many people start talking about. That somehow the man-child is above keeping the commandments. The man-child is just a super child. That it's only the woman that keeps the commandments, that has to keep the commandments. But this man-child is a super child. Super spiritual, just doesn't need to keep the commandments, so it'll just get raptured up into heaven. That's a lot of people's interpretation of this verse, but let's just read the first 6 verses from Revelation chapter 12. I'm of course using the King James Version, it almost goes without saying. We can just replace any Greek names or whatever with Hebrew names if it makes us happier. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. So undoubtedly that's got to be referring to the 12 tribes of Israel, whereby you've got the heavenly luminaries telling us that that's Israel's calendar. It's the only nation in the world, except for Ethiopia, of course, many Ethiopian Jews as well. But they know it's the solely lunar calendar that we use for the 4th commandment, which, if you're not using the Dowie Rems version, that is where the 2nd commandment's cut out. But the 4th commandment, of course, is, I'm talking about the Sabbath days. Okay. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth and pained to be delivered. Okay, so that's talking about basically the state of Israel today. The fact that there are some Messianic Jews in it, and basically the state itself is groaning and crying, basically seeing more and more Jewish people come into faith with Yeshua. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. His tail drew a third of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. So this is talking about the fallen angels. Stars are always angels, and a third of them, as you know, in past scriptures, have actually fallen from heaven. Okay, these most of these angels probably directly under the dragon's authority in heaven. So pretty much they're just showing their loyalty to that fallen angel. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. So one just pictures basically the birth of Yeshua with Mary. This is definitely, you can talk about sort of double-edged prophecies, but undoubtedly, firstly, this is talking about Yeshua. It says, and she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. Yeshua's already been caught up unto God's throne. Of course, we're expecting his return. We read in other parts of Revelation that Yeshua is coming back with the saints to rule the nations with a rod of iron. Okay, we read that, I think it's the church to Thyatira, I think it is, which many consider as the Catholic Church there. It says the one that says, I'll kill her children with death and they will know that I am the Lord. So this is a great conflict, of course, that's beginning to envelop here in the book of Revelation as we go right on up until chapter 17 and the fall of Babylon, and Babylon the Great being basically a worldwide system, being probably controlled from outer space through satellites, through technology and different things. Okay, but you've generally got the ruling cities today. It's like a serpent. You start at Rome, you go to London, you go across to New York City with the UN and down to Washington DC, and you've got a few other very, very important cities in other nations, of course, and China, Russia, of course, talks about the great red dragon. So you just wonder what sort of army that this dragon will have, and we read about the 200 million army, of course, as well. So many Bible scholars have always thought this to do with Asia. Okay, so but diverting slightly off the topic there, we're talking about the man-child ministry. Who's the man-child? Well, definitely it's talking about Yeshua. Okay, the woman is definitely talking about the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, but it's actually talking about born-again believers in Yeshua. So whether some of the first fruits are actually raptured, I'm not saying it's not possible, but this takes place before the 1,203 days, which is the 3.5 years. So that's why I've always said if it's going to be a rapture, it will happen the 3.5 year main tribulation, and it will happen before that. If it doesn't happen before that, then it just means, I guess, nobody's counted worthy to be the man-child, because they're not properly preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, and they're not keeping the 10 Commandments. It's simple as that. They're not keeping the commandments of God. Who among us today can be counted greatest in the kingdom of heaven, as Yeshua says, who actually teaches and keeps, most importantly, keeps these commandments. When I go online and upload these videos, there are not many people that actually consider keeping the commandments as an important thing, but the Bible certainly tells us every chapter we read, almost certainly every book of the Bible talks about a reward for those who keep the commandments of God. Okay, it talks about the faith of Yeshua. What is the faith of Yeshua? Well, Yeshua kept all the commandments just to show his love for his Father. So how do we show his love, our love for Yeshua? We keep his commandments. That's according to the Gospel of John. Okay, so again, I don't know what other ministries there are out there. Certainly there are many that claim to keep the commandments. Some of them try to teach the commandments, and they get in all kind of knots and crosses about when the Sabbath day is. Well, it can't be in the Roman calendar, so that discounts about 90% of so-called commandment keeping Christians, on Messianic Jews, on YouTube and online today. So again, just encourage you, check out Yeshurun International's calendar. You can download it from the Scribed website, which is in the front of this channel, and just go through the flyers there. Let me know if you're having any difficulty downloading them. Some of you you may have to join Scribed before you can download them, but just let me know if there's any difficulties there, and I'll be able to email you any copies of these tracts so that you can go out yourself and start filling the Great Commission as well. You know, not only preaching the gospel, but actually teaching the commandments for the body of Christ to keep. Okay, I don't have a big fancy church for people to go to, but generally that's all we're really called to do, is just to obey that calling today, and share the scriptures with one another and encourage each other. Thank you for listening, guys. May the Lord bless you.